To all of you, welcome to the fifth webinar organized by Pallavan Learning Systems. Before we start this webinar, I would just like to say a few words about our organization and the kind of work that we do. PLS, as most of you might refer to Pallavan Learning Systems, is an educational research organization, and we believe in promoting learning in all its forms. One of our main objectives is to conduct research, and we also organize seminars and conferences such as this webinar for the creation and dissemination of new knowledge so that what we do as an organization remains current and relevant to the rapidly changing times. Just to give you a detailed overview of what we have done so far, we have conducted 4 past webinars, and the topical issues that we dealt with were nurturing our learners in the time of COVID-19. Then we did one on the future of learning. We did the third one on developing a sustainable community approach to promote learning. And the fourth webinar was on ensuring holistic development of learners. I urge all the members of the audience, if you are interested in any of the topics, and if you would like to read the detailed report on any one of them, please let us know. Now, going back to this present webinar, can I request all members of the audience to please turn off your video and mute your audio for the duration of the session?
It started. Yeah. Choki, these guys don't even know that it started. I don't know what kind of people, what kind of friends you have.
Yes. We have started the webinar, and we are requesting everyone, if you are not one of the panelists, can we request you to please turn off your video as well as mute your audio for the duration of the session. Ideally, it should be only the moderators and the speakers with their video as well as the audio on. And for the audience, there is a chat box on the side of your Zoom screen. So we would like to request all of you, if you have any questions during the session, please drop your questions there. And this platform can also be used for engaging in discussions. Without further delay, I would like to invite our moderator, Sudeep Chakravarti, to take over this session and start this webinar on online facilitation, difficulties and opportunities. Over to you, Sudeep.
Thank you, Choki. Am I audible?
Yes, please go on.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, a warm welcome to all of you. I am going to sort of launch right into this by introducing the panelists to you very, very briefly, as well as a brief introduction to what exactly I'm doing here. I'm a former journalist, a long-time career journalist who switched to writing books a few years ago, about 15 years ago. And since then, I have been tracking the digital space both as a researcher as well as a person who uses it actively to disseminate about my books, my writing, so on and so forth. So this is a discussion that I'm deeply interested in, and would like to introduce to you my fellow panelists before we move ahead with the agenda for the evening. The first panelist.
Before you start, can we request you to switch your camera mode? It's facing the room other than you. If that is okay with you.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would want to see the moderator as well.
Yes, okay, I see myself, yeah.
Yes.
No, I didn't see the view. Okay, sorry. I'm a bit shy, ladies and gentlemen. Blame it on my upbringing. Anyway, I guess we're back here. So, and the reason I want to preface this discussion and set the tone for the discussion, friends, is very important, is because of the strange times that we live in. Now, I personally have been using the internet nearly ever since it began. I've used the internet throughout my career, which began in 1985. 20 years ago, I actually edited South Asia's first digital newspaper. And as a writer, as an author, I have ever since been using the internet and digital tools for talking about my books, for learning. You name it, I've done it. But the time that we face right now has completely thrown me off kilter, even though I have been using the digital medium for so many decades without a break. COVID has turned my world upside down. I no longer have any engagement with my readers directly. I cannot visit bookstores, cannot participate in literature festivals, see my readers face to face. It's all gone digital. And as you can see, that the little glitches like me turning the camera in the reverse, Choki, thank you for pointing that out. And I had a bit of a difficulty logging on this evening. Basically brings to attention the very many issues, problems, solutions, and opportunities that we all face in this new sort of redesigned world that has been thrust upon us. And that is what we're going to be discussing this evening, various aspects of teaching and learning, and nothing better than that. Our first panelist is Mriganka Madhukaillya, who likes to describe himself as a teacher at the Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. He's a bit modest. Let me add a bit and say that he's a founder of the Media Lab, which is part of the Indian Institute of Technology's Department of Design. And Mrigank teaches new media and cinema, and he's also got an extremely interesting background in quantum mechanics and communication design. So he, in a way, will be our technology expert for the evening. We have Mr. Penjor Ghaley, who is the head of the computer science department at the Royal Academy in Bhutan, which is a path-breaking institution for its practice of what it calls total learning, as it were, in the classroom, outside the classroom, working with the community, including where the students come from and where they would go back to and their aspirations. And then I think my most favorite participant of the evening, because she happens to be a student, is Trassy D'Rozario, who is a student of grade 10 of the SFX, or St. Francis Xavier Greenherald International School in Dhaka, Bangladesh. It's an extremely well-known multicultural institution, and it's been with us since 1912. Trassy, for the record, is a student of science. It's what her passion is. Now, let me now get into the structure and the mood of the discussion. The first thing that I think we would like to address here, and I will request our panelists to come on in turn, is really the technological aspect of the world we're living in right now. And, you know, see, we're all dealing with it. And Megan, could you share a little bit about, you know, what are the platforms and softwares you think are best suited for online learning and online facilitation, specifically given the fact that now we are in a situation where we have to deal with it not necessarily out of choice, but necessarily out of compulsion. I mean, there's a difference in degree in that. Could you kindly take us through in a few minutes as to your views on this? Thanks, Megan.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Sudeep, for that nice introduction, and thank you so much, Pallavan Learning System, for inviting me. So I would like, can I speak for 2 more minutes to explain what actually this medium, actually what I think should be, you know,
certainly.
Real concerts. So basically, it's like, I would say, it was a curse. I don't know if some of you remember the film Matrix, where Morpheus calls Neo that welcome to the desert of the real, you know. So right now, this kind of what the reality we would have been in another past, maybe last year, we would have met in real life and having coffee or tea together. But somewhere this, you know, what has really happened is actually was plotted much earlier, maybe 60, 70 years. So there was a very interesting book, because before understanding digital, I think this idea of digital was there from 1930s onwards, like this H.G. Wells book, or basically, I'm not saying digital, but internet right now, this whole idea, which this idea of world brain, you know, like, which is definitely concerning education and how internet need to be organized. Right now, internet is not organized for education, I would say. It's like YouTube, you know, putting this, it's not really, not is the perfect, because like in India, we were not really prepared for this situation. So it was, so definitely Google had, was influenced, or rather hacked the idea of wall brain and wanted this thing to to connect the wall, like say in 1840 how the telegraph came to India and they connect the whole India through the rest of the world. So that is one. And the second question, which is what we need to ask, as all we are all learners, and like right now it is a very humble moment that we, at least with what I see, with teachers and students, they're learning together. So in this sense, we don't know, even we have to find the right platform. So this question which I want to drop in this discussion is what being digital means. Like basically everything is in, it could be audio, it could be text, we are constantly sharing. So now coming back to the question which you say, the platforms, first thing I would like to say that I don't use Zoom at all, and I don't see that is a very effective, and I am apart from the privacy issues and all the thing, but Zoom, I think that the kind of courses I find it very passive, or I would say very dictatorial. Like I'm speaking and there is no so much feedback which I can gain and think. So right now there are many platforms, and I would say very directly there, which I would say very open source. And this some of them would be, I can send in the text if you like, so everybody can look at it. So this tool I use called Discord, which is it's actually a gaming platform, but the most interesting thing is that you can organize the whole course, and anybody, it could, there like this discussion, there are moderators, there could be somebody administrators, and so you can do all sorts of things, no hierarchy of video, audio and text presentations, and it remains in that platform, so people can come and go. It's just like Facebook, but with more privacy. So in a sense, it's more open source. Similarly, in this thing, also Microsoft Team has really game up, and they have, working with now education institutions. So Microsoft Team, in that regard, people are using it. So people could, say, teacher could write, they could draw, they could do similar things. Similarly, also is OBS Studio, and these are the things what I'm saying primarily are free. So OBS Studios, and we prefer, at least from India or South Asia, the things to be not expensive or paid. So something which is really easy to use. So as I said, Discord is also like I did a survey with my students, and who are not used to. It's a new experience, because I think the generation which is right now probably studying from school till the colleges are very, very tech savvy. So it's also the gaming thing. It could be very easily changed. So so this is primarily, I would say, and also, yeah, there is another one called Jitsi, which is also people use it for a lot of webinars and things. But there are three primary, which I would suggest right now for the right. I can tell you more about it. But.
All right. Well, thanks very much for that, Mriganka. And actually, you've done this webinar a great service already by, in a way, debunking the myths of Zoom. So for that, my congratulations. But here, maybe I'll bring Penjor Ghaley into the discussion. And Mriganka, I mean, of course, we'll be addressing several other issues as we go on in through the discussion. So don't go away, as we say in media.
Yeah, sure.
Just stay right there. I'll come back to you. But if I could go to my friend Penjor Ghaley now, and who's a practitioner, who's a teacher, really. So I mean, his views are also very, very important. Penjor, I wanted to ask you, I mean, to begin in a technical fashion and to take on to go on from what Mriganka's said, in what way do you think, Penjor, that the platforms are better for learning than offline or AK, or which is also known as face-to-face facilitation? Is there anything in your opinion that tells you that the digital platforms or online platforms are better in some way for learning than offline or face-to-face approaches? Penjor, please.
Thank you. Just to carry on what Mriganka already mentioned about different platforms like Discord and Microsoft Team, and we have also been using a lot of softwares here at the Royal Academy. So if you look at this software, this can be broadly categorized into mainly for resource sharing, messaging applications, and softwares for video conferencing like the Microsoft Team, and some are for assessment. So I think for me, online teaching is not about the various softwares that we use, but we use this to engage the students, I think. And more or less, the selection of software is completely based on individual preferences. Each individual selects their own software and which best suits their teaching style. But importantly, I feel that it has been a learning journey for us as a teacher and even for the student, because the online learning not only allowed teachers to individualize the learning experience, but also allowed students to assess their learning style. So it helps students to be more independent in their learning. And since they have moved away from the traditional classroom, not having teachers all the time to provide feedback, it makes it necessary for the students to learn how to assess their own maybe assess their own work, or assess their own skills and processes and their own anything that they want to assess, and not to be too dependent on teachers, I think. And
well,
this and
no,
this is
continue. Please continue. Please continue.
yeah, this is a very important skill that every student should develop to be able to critique their own work. You're saying something?
No, in fact, this is wonderful because I mean, in fact, this allows me to bring Tracy in immediately, and in fact, maybe put you versus Tracy, if I may, because here you're suggesting a situation, a reality, where you're saying that, you know, in the digital world that we now live in, or we are compelled to live in for whatever reason, we have to look at the positive sides. And here you have a situation where you're actually making the point that it allows students to be freer from a traditional classroom environment without constant supervision, or, you know, having the teacher's eyeballs on them all the time. And what you're suggesting immediately is also that it allows, or it enables a student to feel more empowered and more confident, and also more responsible about studies in general. Now, Tracy, you heard what Mr. Ghaley just said. Would you, I mean, how would you agree with that? I mean, do you agree with what the gentlemen have said thus far in terms of the software that you and your institution may be using for the online learning? And are there any shortcomings that you feel that exist in the current system in the way you're learning? Tracy?
Well, to start off, I do agree with Penjor sir and Mriganka sir, because Discord is also something that is very popular among us that we can easily get adapted to. In the sense of shortcomings, there's always pros and cons. Let's just get that straight first. There is always going to be something that is wrong. So, personally, in Zoom, I do not also like it either. Personal choice. It may be personal preference or not. The problem with Zoom is that, well, first off, it's limited. The time is limited. It's only 40 minutes, and not everyone can afford. Everyone cannot afford the paid account. And second thing about Zoom is that from a student perspective, there is, although like I am a student, but there are people, other students, that actually interrupt our classes. They use fake IDs and they enter classes to disturb the environment. And people would expect me to like support this, but no, I do not support this, as it also affects my education and it takes up my time. And considering the time is limited, it is like, it's a complete waste. Like, it just wastes the entire thing. And some teachers, you know, they get mad or sad, and they either just get rid of the entire meeting, they end the entire meeting out of frustration, or they just, I don't know, they just quit teaching. They leave the school. This has happened in my school. There was a teacher that was so fed up, she left the school. And Zoom.
Oh, good Lord.
Yes, I know. And another thing with Zoom is that you can private chat during classes. Not only in Zoom, but obviously you can put something behind your windows. And when there's exams going on, there is always going to be a way to cheat. There is no way that you can completely invigilate the student. There is no way, because we know technology like the back of our hands. So this is something that like not only Zoom, I think anyone can actually, nothing can actually, fight this thing, like anyone can
Okay,
cheat.
all
You
right.
can never take exams
Okay.
effectively. So I just want to, that's one of the main shortcomings, because that is something no one can actually like invigilate or see. That is something I wanted to point out. And yeah,
Okay.
other than that, Zoom personally, I think for teachers would be good, because it is easy for them. Like personally, I have asked some of my teachers, although it is easy for the current generation, it is gonna be easy for our teachers to use it, because they find it easier to go around. At least that is what I have
Okay.
up from my server. That's all.
All right, excellent. Now, Tracy, thank you very much. And you've lived up to the reputation of a Jesuit institution encouraging free speaking and free thinking. Well done, Tracy. I'm sure you've already added invaluably to this webinar. And you've also opened the door to take our discussion to another stage, if you will, when we talk about, effectively what we're leading up to from technology is really best approaches, best techniques, how best to approach this online learning, this online environment that we're in. And here I want to also, friends, bring in one aspect, because, best approaches, I'm sure you gentlemen and Tracy and friends who are listening in will agree, varies from person to person and situation to situation. For instance, there's a teacher friend of mine who, one of the things she does, and very effectively, she tells me, is that when she starts class, say at 10 a.m., she begins class, then she'll get everybody there and she'll deliberately disappear for 2 to 3 minutes for the students to begin chatting with each other, say hello to each other, see each other's faces, because they do not any longer have physical interaction in the classroom 5 days a week or 6 days a week. So, that interaction is important. There are other people who will, and when she comes back, as if nothing ever happened, she finds that the class unit, in a way, is a little more cohesive. They're more relaxed. They've lost the tensions of the day, or whatever little tensions they may be at home or in the situation. Because, so they've created a virtual/real school environment within this digital platform. So she uses psychology as a technique. So like that, there are various teachers who use various techniques to make things comfortable for themselves, make things comfortable for their students. Some teachers provide online lessons the evening before. Some teachers get upset, as you just told us, Tracy, with the way things are, with how things are dealt with. Some teachers are very happy because they can immediately take people into a virtual museum or a virtual battlefield or a chemistry lab or a math problem, or put live URLs right up there. So there are various techniques. Now, Penjor, if I can come back to you, and Tracy, I'll come back to you in a bit, because I want to, we all want to listen to what you have to say for sure. So Penjor, what are, when you match your expertise as a sort of a computer specialist, a technology head, if you will, of an educational institution, what are some of the best techniques from a sort of a computer specialist point of view that you think teachers and students can use, best techniques for online learning and facilitation? Penjor Ghaley, could you please take us through a few minutes with that thought?
Thank you, Sudeep. When we talk about the best techniques or the best approach to online learning and facilitation, I think it's not determined by the types of software or various platforms we use. You might have the best software. That does not necessarily mean that you will have the best or a very successful learning experience, right? And what I really want to, I usually
sorry to interrupt. Could we have Penjor Ghaley on the screen, please, folks? It would be useful.
Okay.
But go ahead. I mean, you're still talking, so that's good. We can we can hear you.
Like
there you are.
as I was saying, like when we talk about the approaches that I usually take when it comes to the online learning, I think really three basic elements comes in my mind when we talk about online learning. It is important to determine how will you get content to students in the easiest and the most successful way, and also context. How can you provide context or essentially your direct instruction in an online environment? And one of the most important element would be how will, as a teacher, connect with students, or how will the students connect with each other. I think that is where when you talked about interaction is very important, not only among the teacher and the student, but also among the students and students. So these elements really help to consider the basic approach individual takes for online learning and facilitation. So whether you're sending contents to the student through email or uploading it into Google Drive or using your any LMS or the learning management system, I think the consistency is the key to help students understand your expectation and also to help them plan their time more effectively, because we don't want them to waste their time searching for the materials rather than engaging with the learning. So it might not be the best technique, but this is something that which worked for me and my colleagues here at the Royal Academy. A simple approach we took was sharing our plans or a summary of learning experiences, like and also along with the dates when it's going to be held, and just highlighting what they will learn or over the period of time before the students come to the online learning experience. I think this communicating this information helped students to be more engaged, and they get a sense of purpose for joining the online learning experiences. And giving clear expectations to students and letting them know how they are getting evaluated and preparing questions which brings out their personalities, their styles, and their learnings. I feel what most teachers struggled during the online teaching, they might have struggled a bit while moving from a traditional classroom to a virtual classroom, and also struggled adapting to new software and reaching out to students. So it has been difficult for the teachers, but it has been even more difficult for the students. If you look at it closely, they have also gone from a classroom to an online environment and surrounded by lots of distraction at home, the distraction from their siblings, distraction from the social medias. They have access to all those things. So there's a lot of distraction. So it is no surprise that the frequency of students joining the learning, the online learning experiences decreases gradually. And we also need to understand that this approach to learning is also very new to them. Some might take the effort to adapt and learn, but some will just give up. And this is something I have experienced with my students all the time.
Penjor, let me ask you something, just taking from the last thing that you said, that, it's extremely revealing things that you're saying, and I think everybody listening in will appreciate what you're saying, because in many ways, in a small or large manner, we're all experiencing it now, from one perspective or the other. I had a query which people might find interesting. I'm told by some of my friends and colleagues who are teachers, for instance, that they find they try to engage in more student presentations, for instance, like just little gimmicks to team up one student with the other student, do more presentations, read a paper, maybe research a song and talk about its history. I'm talking about like arts-like situations, but similar things can be relating to science, a science experiment that you do at home, a simple science experiment, and then you're sharing it with your class. Little gimmicks which draw people in, not just from urban centers, but some where teachers are compelled, who are not in the big cities of South Asia, who are in the smaller cities of South Asia, who are in relatively rural areas in South Asia, for instance. I mean, they try various gimmicks, various devices to keep their own attention going, as well as to engage their students into a greater sense of participation. Do you sense that happening in the Royal Academy and with your colleagues from other institutions that you've shared these ideas with?
I think, like, just to add on what you said, what I really feel is that the COVID thing happened, right? And I think nobody had time to prepare that they're directly jumping to online learning experiences. And
Right.
I think neither, even the teachers are never trained to do online teaching. They were just, they are teachers. They are good at what they do. They're very good at interacting with students in a classroom. They're very good at giving assessment. They're good at creating a relation with the student, but in a classroom scenario. But the moment the COVID happened and everybody had to go back to their home and they had to start online learning experiences. So I think it took quite a while, like even for the teachers, it doesn't happen like you can't snap your finger.
Right.
You just
Exactly.
start getting all the skills of online teaching and learning. So I think there has been a lot of struggle in that, and even for the Royal Academy, we spent a lot of time designing our learning experience. It like the moment the students left, I think all the teachers we jumped into planning how we are going to conduct the learning online courses and the materials. And what we do at the Royal Academy is like we don't focus on the content, but rather we focus on the skills and process and watermarks. So we had to design our learning experiences in such a way that it get contextualized to where the students are located. And we have been lucky in some ways, especially being in Bhutan, that there hasn't been any community transmission. So at least there was slight freedom of students being able to go outside. And so we had that opportunity, like using their surrounding, their locality. So our classes, our online learning experiences were not restricted to only the devices and within the locked four walls, but our experiences were at least outside. The students were going outside doing something. Maybe it might be related to physical, so they go outside and they do something physical. They make a video of it and they can share with us. So I think in some ways we had kept the content a little far away, and we just focused on contextualizing it, everything to the students, and making just focusing on the skills and process. I think that was more important. And also,
Penjor, thank you for. Sorry. Do continue. I didn't.
One important thing was like helping them, because they are at home, and I think they for us, especially being a residential school, our students stay here in the campus for almost 10 months, and they spend at least 3 months at home. So this was a big opportunity for the students to be at home and be with their family. They participate in agriculture. So all those processes were involved.
I see. Well, Penjor, thank you for sharing that. And I hope that for friends around South Asia and other parts of Asia and the world who are listening into this, that the relatively fortunate space that Bhutan finds itself in, where there is no community transmission, quickly devolves to other countries as well. And things become a little more normal, as it were, which allows children to go out and interact more, which allows teachers in turn a little more freedom to design various courses. Mriganka, can I bring you back at this point of time? And apologies for keeping you away for so long from this discussion. But you know, the thing is that between what you said in the beginning and what Penjor said twice over, and then young Tracy spoke her mind. Now, when there are various devices, various approaches, various technology platforms, various particular situations that devolve not just to a country, but to a particular school and the way it's styled and where it's located. Now, all of that put together, I mean, how as a technical specialist, as someone who designs media communication and thinks these things through as a profession and your vocation, how do you really measure in such a situation a sort of what you might call an outcome, you know, or the effectiveness of such digital learning? How do we measure it? Because, you know, when it's face-to-face in class, there are various nuances, ticks, someone is speaking, someone is not. There are also, beyond the simple grading and what you put on a piece of paper, there are also other inputs that a teacher or an institution engages, you know, it takes, uses to gauge how far the student has come, and in fact, how far the teaching program has come. So how, in a online world, in a digital world, and with the technology at hand, with the processes at hand, how do you measure if it's working or not working? I mean, what's working, what's not working? Mriganka, could you please take us through that? And if you could kindly come on screen so that our viewers can see you. Okay.
So I would like to give a small backdrop of what really happened, because I think it's very nice to hear the feedback from Tracy, and I think I'm quite happy that I'm not outdated by not saying things against Zoom. So I'm very feeling happy. So the basic thing is that I would take a really different route of answering your question, because I did, especially also for this occasion, I did a small survey with my students. Right now, my current, I'm lucky that the course I'm teaching is also connected to exactly this. This is the new media studies, which is around looking at digital technology, developing new things, scenarios. So this is, so to be very frank, I completely agree with, with the previous speaker. Penjor, I really agree with what he said, because in that regard, that nothing can, replace offline teaching or what we had right now. And the current state of online learning is, I think it's below average. It's not really, we are not able to just forget about schools, forget about, like higher institution, like where we are located. So we are in the verge of, last month we almost had like a student protest, because they want to come back. They don't want to this kind of set of uncertainty. So saying that, basically we try to innovate. Like for example, the platform I say, why I talk about this platform, that it was also introduced to me by one of my ex-students. He's into gaming, video, this. But people have been adapting to what I required. That's what also Penjor said, that, okay, what do you look at? So what I needed a set of, text which I people to read. I want them to look at something where I want to play. But I definitely, a lot of teachers would say record their lectures, but I was not very comfortable, because some of the to do a feedback whether students have got it or not. So I want to be alive, and saying that, I also see the urgency, which is also chat. A lot of people are writing about, okay, some discipline issues, but that has also been there in offline, that people are coming and that. So I make it not compulsory, looking at the empathic side of the thing, that, okay, you don't need to put the video on. So if you want to cheat for first few weeks, it's okay, but it's like, so automatically the people who are interested, they kind of create small groups, and they create different discussions group within the course. So definitely the main idea is that we require a set of innovations which we need to do, which I would like to say, which I call that it is a project which is probably in India currently is provoked by the new education policy. I would say 60–70% I agree with some of the changes it's proposing. It's both with the content and both as well as the matter. It's not really the concept versus skills, because like I had a very good experience last year in Royal Academy, which I was just listening to their methods of converging disciplines, the way of different subjects, and I also came and told IIT about that. We also need we are becoming dinosaur. We need to really look at what kind of future many of the things. So in terms of your the idea of in that regard, I know, and we are definitely trying to look at this issue very clearly, but time to time, I think, as what I'm saying, that is, we cannot replace what was there, that see face to face and somebody's getting it or not, but taking this constant feedback. So So constant,
Okay.
and if you open it up and more casual, as you said, I think you also suggested, like last semester, because last semester, the second half of one course, I had to do it in this platform. Then instead of doing an exam, IIT allowed me to do a very innovative exam. So what I did is I gave them to record sounds in their neighborhoods, basically, or their house around wherever they could. So they could submit into that, format. So I guess some of these things we definitely require a set of new tools to evaluate. And the concluding thing which I would like to say that I don't know whether I'm quite influenced, and I think I would like to tell all the listener viewers here and the discussion. I definitely, most of you must have read. I think it's quite provocative what Yuval Harari's book, I think, proposes, that basically this change was imminent, because I think the current, I'm very positive with changes. What I see that the education system we had, it is a byproduct of industrial revolution. So it's like, say, agricultural age, industrial age, and now we're in the information age. So definitely what we have, the online infrastructure, content, this is not perfect, but we all have to come together. So people like Tracy, their feedback is very crucial. I've written down what he said. So I think constantly taking feedback, I would say, would effectively. So I did this survey, and as I said, and most of the students say that they wanted live and more informal, like what we call it tutorial. Basically, after you have the lecture, you can have an open discussion. So it is something which has been very effective.
Mrigank, thanks for that. Now, one immediate question I have, or rather a supplementary, if you will, is that some of what you've talked about is applicable to students at college and university. These are like grown-ups, if you will. These are young, more than young adults. They're adults, technically, and in every other way. I can see this permeating to, say, classes 10, 11, 12, grade 10, 11, 12, and even 8 and 9, where students, children are aware enough in some ways to participate in a sort of a feedback program, if you will, whether it's a group discussion or, okay, tell me what you want to do kind of thing. Now, how does it, I mean, this is a question to, I'm sure our listeners will have similar questions as well, but how do you translate something that an elder student, if you will, an older generation of student would take to like duck to water, but a younger student who are also online, who are also digitally enabled or disabled in many ways, with similar situations. Children in classes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How does then this approach work to them? I mean, maybe you have some answers because you're talking about it. Maybe Penjor has some answers. But I think before this webinar is done, I think we need to also address that aspect so that, and maybe get views in from some of our participants and listeners as well, because this is something that it's just a gut question that popped up in my mind as you were speaking. What happens to the younger students? How do we enable them in order to get their feedback and enrich the learning for them? Do you have a thought on that? And maybe Penjor, and then we can go to young Tracy and get her thought on that. Okay.
Penjor, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll just add a few things. The moment you said, mentioned about young children and how are you going to do the online learning experience, I think the approach that we hear is that we can take is we need to use one of the most important asset that we have, that the parents actually. You can't have a regular learning experiences and you expect the young children to attend it and not get distracted to many 1,000 things in front of them. So I think in that situation, having the parents on our side is one of the most crucial step that as a teacher I would take if I had to teach, because our students are quite young adults. So if I have to teach a younger ones, I would definitely be more engaged with the parents actually. Getting like you can simple things, you don't have to engage the parents in terms of making them sit through all the learning experience, but I think in terms of planning their routine or just just motivating the young ones, and this small thing, just being there for the child. I think that is where that is how I would use the learning opportunity there.
So would you then, Penjor, basically encourage something on the lines of a digital PTA as well, parent and child, parent and student, parent and student? Like, I mean, would you encourage that? That, you know, because you don't have a PTA in the traditional sense anymore on a designated day, and in a residential school that doesn't happen in any case. But in schools that are not residential schools, there is something called parents teachers meetings where there's interaction now. I mean, so basically that whole situation goes online when a teacher now sits with the child with the parents around, or with the child not around, has a chat with the parents. Is that something that you're sort of pointing to that, right, as well?
When you say about the parent-child meeting, it sounds too formal for me, like this. Because when I talk about meeting, I think it's like you're basically complaining about the child, or you're saying good thing about the child,
right.
But you're not involving the parents in the learning of the child. Because
Indeed.
So I wouldn't be saying it's kind of a parent-child meeting, but it's basically communication. I think the most crucial key here is to be to communicate with the parents, being engaged with them, like having a normal. It doesn't need to be very formal all the time. Just having a normal conversation with the parents. And I think it's an opportunity for the teachers to build a relation, have a group with the parents, and have a feedback session on that, and just make it more engaging actually, and always making sure that the child is always at the center. That is more important.
Well, that brings me directly, actually. Mrigank, would you like to add to something that Penjor has said, or can we move on to
I have a brief comment, which I said that I already said that definitely that now, whether it's an office or whether it's a primary school or a very advanced institutions, we are using similar tools. So I think we are not ready for, like, say, standard second, third, fourth, five. So in this case, I feel, yeah, definitely I agree with Penjor that whole, you know, it is already, I could see around how parents are getting more, associated with the education process and whether they're learning this. But I see there's a whole importance of creating new kind of learning tools, which is very much analog, tactile, because I see there's a rise of even though online platforms are not able to deliver, because bookshops and things, like, for example, I could see there's a rise of sale of books, children books, adolescents. So I think when I think I could remember, that was the great part. I think that we need to really emphasize. So this is not like, it's a kind of, I see as a hybrid thing where toys, learning kits, and this, to teach, say, like definitely like right now in the education policy, they're talking about design thinking, for example. But that we don't need a book. We could have a toy to explain few things which could be distributed, which is currently would be done. So I think these are some of the innovation which is required.
Okay, that's great. In fact, this brings us directly to where, I mean, there's no other way to say it. Maybe what you would, sort of the social and emotional aspect of online learning, teaching, learning, teachers, students, so on and so forth. Now, how does one, conduct this? How does one look after the emotional aspect? I mean, for instance, some teachers I've spoken to, they find that sometimes students are sort of feeling low with whatever is the situation at home. Some teachers have mentioned to me that students are very reluctant to switch on the video when there's a lesson on, because then the whole world can look into their home or their room and see how they live. And not everybody is comfortable with that for various reasons, whether it's intellectual or emotional or socioeconomic, if I may put it mildly, because not everybody is situated in the same platform, or in the same situation. So how does one deal, with something like that, Penjor and Mrigank? And how does one deal with that emotional aspect? And maybe I should flip it over, instead of going to you gentlemen. Maybe I should ask Tracy as to how, Tracy, the way when you are taught or when you learn online, how do you deal with these aspects? I mean, surely you're in touch with your fellow students as well, some of who are your peers, some of your batchmates, if you will, some people who are elder to you, some who are younger. Do you share notes? And I mean, how does one, I mean, what is it that you would like your teachers or your schools to know about from a student's perspective as to how, just how can it be made more impactful for you? How can you feel better about the way that you're being taught in this situation that you can't escape for some time to come? Tracy, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yes, definitely. Thank you. First, so that in my school, we are obliged to keep our cameras on. And
Okay.
although some of us do not like this, I personally, in a certain perspective, I cannot blame my teachers because they need to know that we are there. And they do not know if we're there if we do not turn our cameras on. And although there are people that would prefer to not keep their cameras on but yet listen to a lecture, they cannot trust us. Just like in the chats, there is Ambekush Shukla sir. I'm very sorry if I did not pronounce her name right. He said that it's important to gain trust as online system cannot be 100% foolproof in terms of cheating. It means that ethics is becoming a big problem because of this online platform. Another thing I would like to add on is that my mother is herself a teacher of small children. She teaches nursery children, and I have to record her videos. So I have to record her teaching all of the with hand gestures, making it interesting. She sometimes asks me to edit the videos and add graphical elements so that the little kids can be more interested. So that is also something that makes the little kids more inclined to learn, and of course with the help of their parents. And another thing I would also like to add is parent-teacher meetings have been made much more efficient in the online platform than in the interactive places, because in the interactive places it is true that it's either your child is getting criticized or your child is saying, oh, you're great and stuff. There's no in between. But in the online platform, you actually let the parents know what your child is doing, what is going on, what is upcoming, how much we have finished, we have to know what's the routine for going. So that's what we have had parent-teacher meetings, and that routine has been extremely helpful. Now, coming to the main question, I would like to add that in my country, we have extra classes other than school. So I start classes at 9 in the morning and I end at around 11 p.m., which is the max.
Wow.
Yes, I am all day on my table, and my parents, my parents trust me at least up to a certain extent that they know that I will not be bunking anything. So usually they come over to my room and they don't even have time to I can't give them time. I can't give them time because I am constantly at my table. Usually they tell me to take rest. I can't because I can't miss classes. Because if I miss classes, then the opportunity to ask questions is gone. And being all day on my table, and something that it gets boring. It gets tiring. Something that I would like to suggest is that maybe a 10-minute break at least should be mandatory in every class. At least 10 minutes is not gonna, I don't think 10 minutes is gonna cost anything. 10 minutes of a break just to drink water, get up, talk to our parents, maybe just something that is going out of our house, it's like a stress reliever. So I think that 10 minutes of a break in every class at least gives the students a relief, okay, this is the break, I will come back, but let me just go and freshen up, get up from my table, take a breather. And another thing I would also like to add is we have practical classes online also. So practical classes, this is not effective at all. Straightforward, I'm saying practical classes, at least interactive classes, theory classes, they were up to a certain extent effective, but practical classes you cannot, because you need to use your own hands. It needs to be practical, literally. But when you see your teacher doing it and you just have the book, it defeats the whole purpose. Although, but we still have to, of course, go ahead. We have to go on. We have to move on. This method of practical classes is not effective at all. although I don't see a better way of doing it either, I cannot blame them, but this is not effective. This is not getting us to the practical classes. And we actually also have classes on Skype, which is the Microsoft app. And I think Skype is also good to conduct classes, because Skype, it helps, like, it is much more better for us than Zoom. So yeah, I think that the main thing I would say for this is that at least some breaks in between classes, like 10 minutes, that it keeps us going. That's
I'm sure, and that is the whole point. It has to keep you going.
Yeah.
Now, I think at this point, if it's not too much trouble, Choki and friends at Pallavan, could we take some questions from our viewers and listeners, so that these fine people, Tracy, Penjor, and Mriganka, can answer questions for them, and maybe that'll lead on to some more supplementary thoughts, who knows. So may I request you, Choki and friends at PLS, to bring on a few questions, please. Please read them aloud. If you don't mind, Choki, it'll be useful for everybody. Sure. And then we can figure out who will take the answer, one of the three, or all of the three, or two, or whatever. We'll see where that goes. Thanks so much.
So Sudeep, it's very heartening to know that side by side, while three of them have been giving very amazing insights, there has also been a very engaging discussion having on the other side, on the chat box, and they have come up with quite amazing questions. So one of the speakers, one of the audience actually had this question, which I'm combining with another question by the audience. So her question was, how can one be creative and innovative and on an online learning platform? But to connect it to this other question, he had noted that online platform actually allows for unparalleled opportunity for being creative and innovative. So would just like the insights of our panelists, is that true? Is being online actually opening doors that we don't know for being creative and innovative? If so, what are some of the areas and strategies that we can go along to cater to that?
That's excellent. Mriganka, would you like to go first?
Yeah,
Please?
yeah. Thank you. It's a very brilliant. I saw the question. It's a brilliant question. So I would say that when this situation hit in March, I took that as a challenge, because I was seeing that. I think I would add a bit of your last question, because it was a kind of also going to be a community mental health issue. So in that regard, this challenge that not only I have to take care of my own mental wellness as well as the whole of the class. So this gives a challenge that how do you organize your content in a different way. I would say the innovation or the creativity, first thing is that first we need to forget about any platform. First think about whatever we are teaching. It could be physics, chemistry, design, whatever. So I think, and then what is the best way which you think you will be able to visualize. So like I would like to tell, like I have bought for myself, I think that is like many of you who are passionate about teaching and learning, I had bought some old material like OHP projector without this kind of, so I'm learning all these things. So I would say to create different kind of, how do you convey the idea differently? So it's like, so each idea will require a different kind of medium. So if you think about that, it could be very simple, like what Tracy said. I think I'm very excited to hear her feedback that they are very excited with the medium. So I think we also have to be on the same boat, and since there is no other alternative, so in that regard the innovation will come up with different scenarios. So we could have to you can create a small topic, present it to them in a very different way, and then they would automatically respond, because what happens in this kind of platform is a constant feedback. I mean, here it is not like, I also encourage my student, they could interrupt me at any moment. So that is probably in a normal class it was not allowed, or somebody would not like it. And I think initially I also told you that for there is nothing called digital technology or online this. So we have to we could also like Discord, there are many, you could create your own maybe if you can create a mailing list later, I could also share many resources, many things, which is apparently a lot of people very generously have been sharing. I can put it in a drive and share with some of you. So yeah, I guess I answered the question,
Okay.
but there is no one shot thing. But what I'm saying is that whatever you're teaching, you try to organize your content without thinking about the media, and then you say what is the best way, whether you like to use like I had learned about architecture just by line drawings by this famous architect Jonas Friedman. He just printed all his slides, OHP slide, into 3 books. It was more effective than any digital. So what I'm saying is that it could vary. It is not necessarily that I have to come on video. I have to make very exciting this. For me, it is a challenge. It's not that if given a chance, I would not have chosen digital medium, even though this is my thing. That is what I would say.
Okay. All right. And this is, I just supplement speaking to Mriganka and Penjor both. Is that, you know, when you're talking about digital and sharing and platforms and all of that, but what about keeping in mind people at the lower end of the spectrum, if you will? I don't mean socioeconomically necessarily, which follows partly from my point, but also bandwidth. I mean, how do you deal with these online learning tools for people who simply don't have the bandwidth, whether technological, there just simply isn't speed, there isn't simply enough of a smart enough smartphone or no smartphone, maybe, or inability to procure one. I mean, these are issues that one comes across in many Asian situations, South Asian situations, and even Southeast Asian situations. So how does one deal with that? Would you gentlemen have some thoughts on that, either Mriganka or Penjor? Very quickly, I mean, otherwise we'll cut into the Q&A time, but I thought this was a valid point I wanted to raise in terms of a deficiency.
I cannot add on that, like,
please, Penjor, please.
I don't know how we can just remove the bandwidth from the picture, but just the approaches that we have taken here at the Royal Academy was the moment the student left, we spent a lot of time just collecting data about every individual student. I think that is where we were able to contextualize whatever we designed, the online learning experiences that we designed. We're able to we were able to contextualize to the student, the particular individual student. So the kind of data we collected were or whether they have access to computers, or whether they have smartphones, or they have access to internet. And not only that, we also looked at the kind of geographical location they are at, and like, because our students come from like various districts in the they come from all over the country. And then so all this consideration, and once we collected this data, we gave it to all the teachers. So based on that data, teachers designed the learning experiences for every individual student. So those students who had good connectivity, those who can afford the data packages, and they have if they had laptops, for them we organized learning experiences over Zoom call, which were data heavy. And for those who can't, like if they have a smartphone but it doesn't support Zoom or any other software, then we make sure that the kind of resources that we shared were smaller in size, or we shared smaller videos which were compressed. And so these are the some approaches that we took in order to minimize the bandwidth for the student.
And this gives us, actually, this is something that all of us have to pay a lot of attention and time to going ahead. Choki, would you be kind enough to bring on the next question, please?
Sure. This question is specifically for Penjor at the Royal Academy, but I'm sure the other 2 panelists will add to it. So when he was talking about parents and their involvement, one of our audience, Samik Das, actually gave it an interesting spin. He said, by keeping the child at the center of learning, what essentially happens is the ideological partnership between parents and teachers start building, and that is what happens instead of them playing the blame game. So I thought that was really interesting. So the questions would be, how are some of the ways that we can include the parents in the learning journey of their students. What are some of the strategies that are happening at the Royal Academy and two of the other schools that our panelists are from?
I'll just to share a small story from one of our teachers here, and one of the student, I think what was happening was the student was not coming online. He was not at all joining the learning experiences, and this teacher kept on trying to call the parents. And I think over the time, what happened was instead of the student, the teacher became more closer to the parent. And after some time, the parents started sharing thoughts about what the child is doing, what he's up to, and she will be and the mother will be telling the teacher, like, he's been doing this, he has been busy with this. Even I talked with him. So a lot of interaction, I think, and the parent and the teacher has become a close friend, but still there was a very minimal interaction between this the student and the teacher, and there were many other circumstances why he was not able to join the online classes. But there's a few, I think, we don't have a structured way of getting connected to the parents. I think it's basically coming back to communication, how you interact with the parents. And for the Royal Academy, it has been slightly easier for us because we have been involving the parents over the 5 years. We have always involved the parents in the learners' growth, because we share a detailed report to the parents. We share everything, and in some way or another, we always try to get feedbacks from the parents. And so this and so the sudden change from the traditional classroom to the online, so it wasn't a huge change for us because we were already interacting with the parents. So I'm not sure whether I can give you the best approach to how we can build the relation with the parents. But for us, it was quite easy because we have been interacting with the parents for a long time.
Okay. Well, there's a lesson in that. Choki, could we take the next few questions? And how much time do we have that we can take questions for?
We have time for 2 more questions.
Okay, I leave it to you then. Please go ahead with the next one.
So this one is for Tracy. Saroj has a question because you are the one who brought up teaching. So she wanted to know, along with Portia, who had a similar question, how do we deal with the ethics system of students during this online facilitation kind of situation? Is there a way that teachers and facilitators can cater to their ethical system and make sure that they are able to rise to the occasion when it comes to ethics and doing the right thing?
I was seeing this coming. Okay. Well, to start off, I would just say that you can do everything. You can do everything possible. But at the end of the day, it is the student's responsibility to actually go forward with this. Because right now, technology is like a play for us. Like, we are very used to it. Our generation is very used to it. It's like the back of our hand. We can just easily do anything, which is why cheating is an easy thing for a lot of people, and you can do so much. For example, my institutions, they have bought softwares where it's timed that you have to submit your answers in this time, so you can't even go around to search for answers, or else you will lose the time. Or there is you have to turn your camera on while doing it. Regardless, there is always going to be a way to cheat. And to improve the ethics, one thing that I could suggest is workshops, because I'm in grade 10 and I am going to give my O-levels next year. So I think some people staying at home are losing sight of, like, next year is our O-levels, which is gonna be a great factor in our life. And I think a workshop would be great to make them realize again that, you know, this is next year. This is next year. You have to work right now. It's never too late. You can start now. Something that, like, ignites this in a student. So I think that's important as a student. And regardless of the ethics system, it is dependent on the student. It is dependent on the student, and there's only so much you can help someone. There is always so much you can help someone. As long as you help yourself, that is always going to be the main thing that will, you know, take you forward and keep you going. That's what I just wanted to say about it.
Excellent. Tracy for president. Choki, the next question, please. Thank you.
So the last question would be for Mriganka and to the two of you as well, because this is something That would be more of an insight and what you think is the future of education. Vinod Kumar has asked, is this current online system of learning, will this replace the brick and mortar educational institutes that we have had for centuries? Do you think this is the future of learning? So Mrigank, and then the two of you, if you can give your 2 bits.
Sir, you are muted.
Mrigank, you would need to unmute yourself. Mrigank, I think you're still muted. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's quite a difficult question. I would say it's quite a difficult question. So, but as one could say that the campus where I'm staying right now, where 6,000 people are missing. So it's very difficult to say that we will be able to replace this, this physical campus to something online, because as I was trying to say, already in IIT we had something for, we designed something. All the, like MIT or anything, that all the courses, most of the courses we try to put it online since last 5 years. People who cannot come to IIT, so that is the thing. But I would say those cannot replace, coming to physical and face to face. Because as I say, there are a lot of students I ask, because they're like, for example, right now, what are the most essential tools? Primarily the advanced students I have, they don't need me. Like, for example, the learning programming or this thing. But regarding concepts, I don't think it will be possible to replace brick and mortar model so soon, because eventually I think already the roadmap which has been made, not now, if you know, next 50 years roadmap of technology, the social institutions, the technology, the aesthetic, it is changing everything. It is like going to, so I guess the education also will change, but it is on to us how we send the feedback. It's definitely, as I was trying to tell you, that already last 5 months, this global experience, I don't know, it was there before in anywhere in the history, that there was one sort of, it was a pressure. Definitely the, internet connection was not there, technology was not there. But saying that, this pressure for everybody to act and to respond has made some sort of singularity. So it's like one situation, one single situation. So in this case, there will be certain things which will be digital and certain things which has to be physical, and they are like specific. Then you have to be very specific about it. I can tell regarding myself, I think I was definitely all over the place when I used to this, but now I become more focused, because talking to 50 students every day from different levels it's a lot of cognitive load. And I also can expect, like Tracy, even I'm very glad to see her enthusiasm, but a lot of people, what is also happening, which I maybe like to ask her at this occasion, that how she differentiate between, because the same platform is used for entertainment as well as for learning. So how do you really differentiate? Tracy, can you tell me that?
How do you
very excellent
differentiate,
question. Excellent question.
Okay. So the question is about Zoom, like the platform that we're studying.
No. I mean to say that already constantly whole day you are on screens, that you are learning. But also before pandemic, you were using to see YouTube, listen to music, see films, chat with things. So how do you differentiate? So don't you feel pressure? Do you have sleeping problem? Like, do you tell me individually? Do you have sleep deprivation, or you don't?
I do. Of course, that's inevitable. Of course, I think every student can relate that we have sleeping problems, because we're.
So how do you really differentiate? Do you differentiate, or there is no border? There is no border between.
It matches up. It just mixes. There is nothing to differentiate it. We are all day on screen. When we were interactive, we used to go out. We used to be with friends. At least we used to see them. And it was not like there was all-time classes. When we entered class, there would be a time for the teacher to come. It would take some time for them to get prepared, and within that time we would talk to our friends, make some jokes, which is something that actually keeps us also going. Then there's a tiffin break in in a school where you eat and you have, like, go with friends, you're with everyone, but that's enjoyment. At least there's a like breaks in interactive classes. When you're in online class, there is nothing to differentiate this. Maybe you just got out from a class. Let's say you got out from a class. You are obviously going to resort to watching a movie or playing a game, which is also a technological thing. And so, like, there is nothing that would actually differentiate these two. One of the questions, if none of mind, one of the questions I would like to answer is how can teacher-student relationships might be improved. In our school, we actually already have an app. It's called ClassTune. So there, all the students have individual IDs and all the parents have individual IDs. So all of us could we could go in and we could see all of the assignments that were assigned. Our parents could also go in and ask what's going on, which days our student was absent or present. And actually, it's through this app that I actually gave my grade 9 final exams. So, if this app actually helped our school a lot, and it helped our parents to also keep in track of what we are doing. And yeah, that is what I would say about it.
Wonderful. I think, Tracy, you've really, because I would have brought this up, and I'm very happy that you took the initiative to say this for yourself. I was wondering, here, maybe it's a good time to, and Choki, you mentioned that this was the last question, right? So
yes.
Maybe it's a good time to wrap up in the sense that look at the takeaways that we've had. I mean, from a person who's not a teacher, but a lifelong learner. For the record, I just finished a 6-week course online in Pali, which is an ancient language. And my teacher was sitting in New York, and his 8:30 EDT was my 5:30 AM IST. So I did that for 6 weeks. So I am on your side, resolutely. The takeaways, I think, from this conversation, I don't think it is an exaggeration to say that the takeaways will be huge and quite significant, because this whole discussion, the fine discussion that we've had with Mriganka and Penjor and Tracy, has thrown up, and the questions that have been asked by our viewers and listeners have thrown up several aspects of what we need to be talking about, what we need to be fixing, what we need to be opening our minds to in every possible manner, from emotional quotient to technological quotient, all sorts of things. So I think when PLS unwraps this thing or sort of bundles it for its sort of looking ahead project, and this is being recorded and will be shared as a platform for others to learn, I think more and more this is seen and heard and discussed. I think it will add to the discussion. So my takeaways, I mean, I'm sure our takeaways have all been very, very significant. Basically, we have to make the best go of it. We have to keep completely open-minded. And this, I think, webinar has been, at least for me, exactly what online learning should be, or learning period should be: open-ended, accepting, critical, and yet solution-oriented, all manner of things. So I think we should stop it before, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. And I'm sure all of us could continue for at least another hour, if not a whole day. But we need to wrap it up. And may I now thank my panelists, my absolutely stellar panelists, Mriganka, Penjor, and Tracy. And Tracy for president, I will say so again. And at this time, could I invite our friends at Pallavan Learning Systems to sort of bring in a little closure to this wonderful, wonderful discussion. Thank you, everybody. Pallavan Learning System, over to you, Choki, to my friends.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sudeep. From Pallavan's side, it has indeed been a very enriching and learning experience for all of us. We feel that it has helped us understanding the intricacies of online learning, but what this webinar has done is also hone our skills in conducting as well as attending online sessions. From Pallavan's side, I would like to thank Mr. Arun Kapoor, our director, and all the colleagues and team members at PLS who has helped in organizing this webinar and ensuring that the entire process was seamless. Finally, I would like to thank our moderator, Sudeep Chakravarti, who did an amazing job, and our 3 speakers, Mriganka Madhukaillya, Penjor Ghaley, and Trassy D'Rozario, for their very valuable insight and enthusiastic participation. Finally, to the audience, thank you so much for your questions, because most of them, in effect, being very difficult, were very relevant and helped making this webinar a very engaging session. We thank all of you for attending and participating in this webinar, and hope that you have learned as much as we have. Thank you.
Yes, sir.